Hey guys, tonight we're starting somewhere cold, damp, and just a little bit cursed. You're standing at the edge of the sea, somewhere off the coast of Brittany, while storm clouds gather like gossiping grandmothers. The rocks are slick with salt, and the wind tastes like it's been whispering secrets since before France had a name. You don't know why you're here exactly. Maybe you took a wrong turn on a road trip. Maybe you followed a dream. Or maybe, just maybe, the tide called your name. Either way, you're here now, and YS is waiting. You won't find it on any modern map. The waves have claimed it, buried it, and, depending on who you ask, tried very hard to forget it. But YS remembers, and tonight you'll remember too. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Midnight in Wisconsin? 3 a.m. in Manila? I want to know which time zones the ghost of Dahet is haunting tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't hear the storm at first. You feel it. In your teeth. In your fingernails. In that weird part of your skull behind your ear where you store long-forgotten childhood songs. The air goes still, but it's a charged stillness, like the moment before someone yells your full name across a crowded room. Thunder rumbles far off, but the sound is less a boom than a low groan, like the sea itself is turning over in its sleep. The shoreline is unfamiliar. Boulders too smooth, seaweed too black, and the water? It's too still. It shouldn't be still. That's the first sign something's off. Even the seagulls have shut up. You look around, expecting some logical explanation. A boat maybe, or an old fisherman lighting a pipe. But there's only you, and the wind, and the rhythm of waves that seem to be waiting. There's a path ahead. Narrow, carved into the stone. Not made for tourists or even locals, this one's old. Pre-church old, pre-Roman old. You take a step. The rock is wet, but strangely warm, like it remembers sunlight that isn't there anymore. You hear something then, not from the sea but from below it. A low hum, soft and steady, like the leftover echo of a bell rung centuries ago. You pause, but curiosity outweighs caution. And let's face it, you're already invested. You didn't come all this way to turn around at the first spooky sound effect. So you follow the path. The fog rolls in almost theatrically, as if summoned. It swirls around your knees, licks at your hands, and tastes faintly of salt and rusted coins. You keep walking. For a moment, you think you see something. A tower, maybe, or the silhouette of an arch. But it flickers like a mirage projected on sea mist. You're not entirely sure when the stone underfoot becomes cobblestone, or when the wind shifts from shrieking to whispering. You only notice because the whisper has a rhythm, like a chant, and it's definitely saying something. Not in French, not in Breton, something older, pre-human almost, but somehow familiar. YS, its size, just that, a name, place, a memory. You blink. The fog clears just enough for you to see what looks like a street, the remnants of a plaza. It's hard to tell. Everything is fractured, uneven, slippery, but undeniably there, real. You crouch, run your fingers across a stone mosaic that somehow hasn't eroded entirely. It depicts a wave curling around a crown. Beneath it, etched in fading runes, are the words, Non potestas servire mari et superbi. You don't know Latin, but the meaning somehow translates anyway. You cannot serve both the sea and pride. Cute motto. Doesn't exactly scream tourism board, though. Then, lightning. For a moment, everything lights up, and in that split-second flash, you see it. Towers, archways, balconies, the skeleton of a city stretching out beneath the seafoam. Not a ruin, a memory, and for just one breathless heartbeat, you feel it was never truly gone. When the light fades, so does the vision. The city is once again hidden beneath mist and sea spray. But your heartbeat doesn't slow, because something about that glimpse felt recent, too sharp, too intact, like it's waiting. The wind shifts again, and this time it brings sound. Not the whispering chant, but something older still. Music. Faint, yes, but unmistakable. Harp strings. A melody that lilts and loops with the current. You don't recognize the tune, but your bones do. It's the kind of melody that plays just before things go wrong in fairy tales. Then you see footprints ahead, bare, delicate, and slightly glowing. Not just wet prints, wet from the inside, as if the feet that left them were made of water. You follow, because of course you do. You've come too far to play it safe now. You're a character in a Cursed City bedtime story. Did you really think this was going to end with a guided tour and a sandwich? The fog thickens, and for the briefest second, you think you hear laughter. A woman's laugh. Not cruel, not sweet, just entertained. Like she's seen 1,000 wanderers come this way, and none of them learned their lesson. You don't see her yet, but she sees you. Welcome to YS. It's not done with you yet. You step carefully now. The path narrows as the fog wraps tighter around your ankles, clinging like wet linen left too long in the dark. Every cobblestone beneath your feet is uneven, some smooth as river stones, others cracked and sharp like broken teeth. You'd think the sea would have worn them down evenly over centuries, but no, this place doesn't follow natural laws. It remembers in corners and forgets in straight lines. The footprints are still there, pale and shimmering faintly, though their shape grows less human the further you go. The arches of the feet elongate slightly. The toes seem to taper unnaturally. You're not sure if it's just your imagination, or if something's leading you toward a different kind of story. There are carvings in the wall beside you now. Patterns, spirals, waves curling into the shape of eyes. Some look etched by hand. Others look older, worn by water, not crafted. You brush your fingers across one and it vibrates faintly beneath your skin, like it's humming, like it remembers being worshipped. You don't realize it at first, but you've crossed into what used to be a street. The fog parts just enough to show ruined doorways and crooked windows leaning into one another like drunken old men. Some of the buildings are half swallowed by coral or crusted with barnacles, but others seem almost untouched, like they'd been drowned yesterday. A fish swims through a shattered archway. Yes, a fish. You're not underwater, but that fish didn't seem to care. You blink and it's gone. Okay, reality is soft here. You step into the shadow of what was once a bakery. The sign still hangs, the lettering faded but legible. Pain de dames. Ladies' bread. You can almost smell it, sweet yeast, warm flour, a hint of salt. And something else deeper, a touch of rot, as if the memory itself has soured over time. The door is gone, but the threshold is dry. You step inside. Inside, there's nothing but dust and silence. And then, like someone flicked a switch, the past overlays the present. For just a moment, there's laughter, the clatter of trays, women in long dresses haggling over honeyed loaves. A child sneaks a bun and ducks under the counter. And then gone. You're back in the silence. A trick of memory, or something deeper, some echo embedded in the stone? You exhale. The air is heavier now, as if it's remembering more than you asked it to. You move on. The path twists. The buildings grow taller, more elaborate. Carvings of sea serpents adorn the windows. Statues of women with fish-scale robes stand guard in niches above. You pass a dry fountain shaped like a spiral shell, its basin full of shattered glass and sea-washed coins. The kind of place you might make a wish if you had any left. Then, ahead, you see movement. Not flickers or shadows, actual movement. A figure far off but walking slowly. Cloaked, hooded. Their feet leave those same wet, glowing prints you've been following. They turn a corner without looking back. Of course you follow. You round the corner and find yourself in what used to be a square. A plaza. There's a large stone in the center, half covered in kelp. Atop it, the remains of a statue. A rider on horseback. Only the legs of the horse and the hem of a cloak remain. The rest has crumbled. But carved into the pedestal are words you can still read. King Gradlon, he who chose. You've heard that name. Maybe in a story. Maybe in a pub quiz you lost. But here it hums in your memory. The king who ruled YS. The one who built the city below sea level. The one who was warned. The one who trusted. The one who escaped. You circle the statue, and something catches your eye. Scratches near the base, far newer than the rest. A short phrase carved roughly into the stone, as if by a desperate hand. She wasn't the only one. Your skin prickles. You look up. The figure is there again at the far end of the plaza. Still not looking at you, but standing very, very still, as if waiting. You take a step and the fog thickens in response. Defensive, possessive, curls around your legs and clutches your wrists like hands from below. You push forward anyway. Then the bell rings. One long, low note. Impossible. You're not near any church, but it echoes through your chest like a second heartbeat. And in that moment, every stone, every window, every broken tile seems to tremble. The city isn't gone. It's just paused, held in the breath between what was and what could be. You look back at the statue. The face of the rider is missing, but you feel eyes on you. Not unfriendly, not friendly either, just watching, as if the stone itself wants to see what you'll do next. You turn to the figure again, but they're gone. Only their footsteps remain, winding down an alley slick with moss and mist. The air smells of brine and burning incense. You follow, of course. There's a quietness here that feels cultivated. Not empty, but curated. Like a museum with the lights dimmed. You don't belong, and yet you do. You're not the first to walk these stones. Probably not the last. But something tells you a very few leave. Your next step makes a splash. Not deep. Ankle-deep water now creeps along the alley floor. You didn't notice it rising, but there it is. Salty, cold, and oddly calm. The fog breathes against your neck. The alley curves ahead. Somewhere beyond it, you feel it. A structure old and patient. Not a ruin. A survivor. Waiting. You press forward, boots squelching softly. And there, just beyond the curve, you see it. A large, circular gate, encrusted with barnacles and wrapped in rusted ivy. Its surface is dark, metallic, etched with symbols that glow faintly blue as you approach. The gate of brass. You found it. Or maybe it found you. The brass gate doesn't move. It just waits. Its circular surface is massive, twice your height, maybe more, and the metal is so dark it's almost black, like wet obsidian wrapped in seaweed. Patterns ripple faintly across its face, lines and curls like the veins of a living thing. You want to run your fingers over them, but something in your chest pulls back, your instincts mumbling, "Not yet, not ready." But then a sound, soft at first, subtle, not wind, not waves, not the echo of your own breath. This is something else, a whisper, not like the fog's earlier muttering, not like the ghostly chant you heard back on the path. This is deeper, slower, comes not from the air around you, but from below, far below. At first, it's gibberish, fragments, shifting vowels that swim away from understanding. But the longer you stand there, the more it coalesces into memory. Not speech exactly, but thought. Half dreamed, half drowned, and yet unmistakably addressed to you. Return, return. You remember, you forgot. You were here. You stagger back slightly, though the gate doesn't move. The voice isn't in your ears. It's inside you, a resonance in the bones, like standing too close to a massive bell that hasn't stopped ringing in centuries. You swallow. Who's speaking? You ask, because of course you do. You're alone with a myth. Might as well be polite. The whisper answers immediately, not in words but in sensation. Brine on the tongue, cold around the ankles, and that shiver behind the eyes when a dream starts to turn bad. Not who. What? Oh, cool. Totally comforting. The gate hums. Faint, like the quiet sigh of a cello. The sound travels down your spine, pools in your stomach, coils in the soles of your feet. And then you hear the names. They slide through your mind like fish. Dahet, Gradlon, Winwallow. Others, too, names older than names, syllables that taste like driftwood and thunder. You don't recognize them. Not really, but a part of you does. You've been here before. Not in this life. Maybe not in any. But in dreams, in stories, in the lullabies whispered to shorebound children who grew up hearing that the ocean eats more than just ships. And this is one of those stories. Your hands start to tingle. The air has thickened again like honey laced with salt. You can feel pressure, not just in your ears, but in your thoughts. The city is trying to remember itself through you. Suddenly, a sharp scent hits your nose. Ozone and damp stone. The kind of smell that warns of lightning. Then the whisper changes. It becomes a plea. Don't open it, it says. Don't repeat it. Let it rest. The whisper doesn't sound malevolent. It sounds tired, like a voice that's warned 1,000 wanderers before you and watched every one of them ignore it. You glance at the gate again, still closed, still patient. You take a step back, but your foot doesn't land where it should. It slips. You stumble just a little, and for a moment, just a moment, you're falling. Not down, but through. The air twists, and your vision warps like looking through thick, rippling glass. And then you're elsewhere. You don't remember moving. You don't remember choosing. But suddenly, you're not alone. You're standing in the middle of what YS must have looked like before it sank. Vibrant, alive. The city glows. Torches flicker in sconces. Music echoes from marble colonnades. People pass by you in silks and furs, smiling, laughing. Though none seem to notice you. You are invisible or perhaps just not yet real. You recognize this scene, even if it's impossible. This is a memory. YS before the drowning. It's night, but the streets are alive. Market stalls spill with salted fish, woven bracelets, and jars of rose-colored wine. Laughter floats through the air like incense. There are children running barefoot, chased by their mothers. A couple dances to the sound of a harp played by a woman with silver hair and eyes like pearls. It is beautiful, but there's something off. You can feel it under the surface. The people are too loud. The lights are too bright. The joy feels forced, like an orchestra playing cheerfully while the ship takes on water. A tension, a desperation, hums beneath it all. And then you see her, Dahet. She's on a balcony overlooking the square. Hair dark as ink, crown low on her brow. She isn't smiling. She watches the people below with a calm, unreadable expression. Regal, yes, but distant, as if she's not truly among them, as if she's already begun to sink. You don't know how you know it's her, but you do. She turns her head just slightly, and her eyes meet yours. It shouldn't be possible. You're not really here, but she sees you, and then she smiles. Not kindly, not cruelly, but knowingly, as if this moment has happened before. as if she's been waiting to catch your eye every single time this memory replays. You blink, and you're back. The brass gate looms again. The fog is thicker. Your hands are cold. The sea has risen around your ankles. Something changed. You're not just remembering YS anymore. It's remembering you. And now the whisper from the deep is no longer pleading. It's laughing. Not loud. Not mocking. But the kind of laugh someone gives when the ending has already been written. The city knows. And you're still walking toward it. The fog parts just long enough to show the top of a stairwell descending into the earth. Or rather, into the water. Half submerged, slick with algae, framed by two crumbling statues of faceless women, one holding a mask, the other a key. Their stone robes are streaked with black salt, and barnacles cling to their elbows like jewelry forgotten in the tide. You stand before them, ankle deep now, the cold starting to creep up your legs with a kind of quiet confidence, like it knows you'll let it. You hesitate, not out of fear but out of instinct, the kind that says, "This is a bad idea," but is too polite to shout. You know what kind of place this is. A shrine, a sanctum, the kind of room where secrets are kept, and where walls still echo with voices not quite dead. But you go in anyway, because of course you do. The first few steps are underwater, and the sound of your descent is muffled, like walking through thick velvet soaked in seawater. The torchlight is gone now. There's only the dim glow from moss clinging to the walls, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat too slow to sustain life. The room at the bottom is circular, low-ceilinged, with walls carved not with religious icons or saints, but with scenes, stories. You step in and the whispering stops. It's not quiet. It's waiting. Your eyes adjust slowly, and you start to understand what you're seeing. This isn't a chapel. It's not a tomb. It's her room. The shrine is for Dahet, or by Dahet, or possibly is Dahet. There's a stone dais in the center, overgrown with seaweed and kelp, but beneath it you glimpse a carving. The same symbol from earlier, the wave wrapped around a crown. But it's the walls that hold your attention. They tell a story. One panel shows a girl, long-haired, arms raised, standing on a cliff as the sea bows to her. Another shows her crowned, standing beside a man, her father, perhaps. He holds a key in one hand and a sword in the other, but her gaze is fixed on the sea behind him. Then, another panel. She walks among masked figures, each one faceless. A banquet, a dance, a man at her feet, head bowed or severed. It's unclear. The next shows a door opening, a wave entering, her eyes wide, smiling, arms open. And finally, the last panel, the city drowning. The same wave now coiled around the crown, pulling it downward. Her figure is gone, or perhaps she is the wave now. You step back, heart ticking louder in your chest. Not panic, not fear, something else. Recognition. Then the voice. Not the whisper from the gate, not the voice of the sea. This one is distinctly female, and close. She didn't want the crown. You freeze. The voice is low, musical, neither kind nor cruel. Just observant, like a teacher reciting a lesson you forgot to study for. She wanted freedom, but here that's the same as blasphemy. You turn slowly. There's a figure standing at the edge of the chamber, where the shadows press hardest. You can't see her face, only her outline. Tall, poised, hair long and wet like seaweed, hands clasped in front as if in prayer. But there's nothing submissive about her. She was born to a city already cursed. The voice continues. Built below the sea, raised by pride, ruled by fear. They handed her the guilt before she learned to speak. And when she reached for joy, they called it sin. You swallow. Dahet. A pause. A soft laugh, almost too quiet to hear. Is that what they call her now? The water rises another inch around your calves, though you feel no movement, no current. It simply appears like time leaking in reverse. She loved the sea, the voice says. The land never fit her. She had salt in her blood and foam in her lungs. But they made her stay, because she was useful. You take a step forward. Did she open the gate? Another pause. This time, the silence is heavier. She didn't need to. Your skin prickles. She didn't destroy the city. The voice continues. Any more than the sea destroys the shore. It simply reclaims what should never have been built. You glance back at the wall carvings. The man with the key. The masked dancers. The wave. She was a scapegoat, you murmur. The voice is quiet now, but not gone. She was a door, and you finally understand. Dahet wasn't the curse. She was the channel, a vessel. The city had rotted from within, decay hidden under pearls and pleasure, and she was the crack that let the truth in. The truth looked like water. You blink and the figure is gone. The shrine is silent once more, but the water has reached your knees, and somewhere in the distance, a harp begins to play again. This time it's playing for you. The water doesn't recede when you leave the shrine. Follows you slow, steady, silent. Not crashing or swirling, just rising. Like it knows its time will come, and there's no need to rush. You climb back up the stone steps, and each one feels softer now, more worn. The moss glows a little brighter, and your footsteps echo like whispers inside a conch shell. When you reach the surface, or what used to be the surface, you pause, because now you can see more of YS. The fog has thinned just enough to show outlines. A spire here, a collapsed bridge there. Once grand towers lean together like conspirators. Streets curl in impossible loops. Arches rise from the sea like broken ribs. The city stretches further than you imagined, further than it should. It doesn't obey geometry anymore. It obeys memory. And memory, as you know, is messy. You walk along what used to be a boulevard. The stones beneath your feet are pale blue, some cracked, some whole, all etched with swirling motifs. Waves, serpents, hands reaching upward. Buildings rise on either side, ruined now but still defiant. Carvings of sea gods peer down from lintels, their faces worn smooth by centuries of salt and regret. And then the realization hits you. This entire city was built below sea level, not near the sea, not beside it, beneath it. There's a reason YS had a gate of brass. It wasn't ornamental. It was the only thing keeping the ocean out. And for a while it worked. According to the stories, well, the polite ones told in classrooms, King Gradlon had the gate constructed by divine order. Or maybe demonic assistance, depending on who you ask. Either way, it was said to be perfect. Sealed tight, immovable. Only he held the key, literally and figuratively, a symbol of control. But the thing about perfect systems? They only stay perfect until people get involved. You pass a plaque, shattered now but legible. It bears a date, older than the calendar you know. Next to it, a mural. Men in robes inspecting dikes, drawing water levels in notebooks made of bark. Behind them, citizens lounge in pools of turquoise water, sipping from shells and eating dates. A man reclines on a chaise beneath a sunstone canopy while, just behind him, a tide gauge quietly ticks a little too high. No one looks worried. This was a city that believed in itself too much. They had engineers, priests, wealth, walls, the ocean. That was decorative. And yet, you duck under a collapsed awning and find yourself in a vast open square. Water laps at your thighs now, but you hardly notice. The square is huge, cobbled with black basalt, ringed by columns carved to resemble kelp and coral. At the center stands a fountain, or what's left of one. The statue lies broken. It used to be a woman pouring water from a jug. Now the jug is upright, the water reversed, curling upward in stone, as if trying to return to the sky. On the rim, words are carved. Water is our wealth, our mirror, our mother. You say it aloud and the fountain creaks. Yes, creaks. Not a trick of the wind, a response, like stone remembering it used to sing. And then you hear it faintly but unmistakably voices. Not ghostly, not whispers, conversations, laughter, market chatter, clinks of glasses, horses trotting. It's not real, can't be, but it is. A moment later, you see them, flickering images, like a projector gone mad. People appear and vanish across the square. A woman selling oysters, a boy chasing a hoop, musicians tuning lyres beneath a canopy. The city in full swing, unaware of its doom. You turn your head and for a split second you see yourself. Not you, a version, dressed in velvet, laughing, alive in a world where the water never came. Then it's gone, and the silence snaps back like a rubber band. You're alone again, but not really, because now you feel something else. The city's pride, it's in the stones, in the carvings, in the way every building leans slightly up, as if craning to admire itself. This wasn't just a city, it was a declaration. Look what we did. It screams even in ruins. Look what we dared. And you know what comes next. The disaster isn't in this section of the story. Not yet, but it's coming. That's the problem with cities built below the tide. You can engineer all you want. You can pray and dance and build brass gates, but eventually, the water remembers. And when it comes back, it doesn't knock. You wade deeper into the square, and something bumps against your leg. You look down. A chalice, still intact, inlaid with mother of pearl, a little tarnished. You lift it, and the moment you do, the air hums, like the city is recognizing you, or worse, mistaking you. The chalice shakes in your hand. You drop it, and it vanishes beneath the surface. Gone. Just like that. Behind you, a wind picks up. Not a natural one. You turn, and there it is again. The gate. How? You left it behind. But there it is. At the edge of the square, half submerged, glowing faintly. Its pattern's different now. Less elegant. More jagged. Like it's reacting. Or waking up. The brass groans. You back away and your foot hits stone. Not a paving stone. A step. You look down. Another stairwell. Leading even deeper. Because of course there is. The city isn't done with you. You glance at the gate. Then the stairwell. Then the sky, what little of it you can see. It's darker now. Heavy. And somewhere above you hear thunder. Not sharp. Long. Rolling. And for the first time since arriving here, you realize something unsettling. The storm hasn't started yet. Everything you've seen so far? Just the silence before the first drop falls. You don't remember choosing to walk back toward the gate, but your feet know the way. The water swirls around your knees, now warm in places, as though the city itself has begun to breathe beneath the tide. And the gate of brass, it's no longer a distant relic. Stands before you, fully revealed now. Half submerged, yes, but towering. Massive. Timeless. Even through the mist and moonlight, it gleams with a dull, fevered glow. You shouldn't feel alive, but it does. Up close, it's clearer how unnatural this thing really is. The surface is patterned, yes, but those patterns shift when you're not looking directly at them. One moment you see curling waves, the next a ring of eyes, then mouths, then something with teeth. The air tastes metallic now, not like rust, like expectation. You reach out without realizing. Your palm presses flat against the brass. And it's warm. Not sun on metal warm or left near a hearth warm. This is the warmth of flesh, of breath, of memory. You yank your hand back, heart kicking. For a moment, you swear you hear it exhale. Then you see the keyhole. It's not large, no bigger than a coin. Almost hidden in the center of the gate, surrounded by a motif that looks suspiciously like a crown being bitten in half. The slot is old, but not corroded, not even damp. Whatever this thing is made of, the sea hasn't touched it. Only one key fits, and you know the story. King Gradlon, ruler of YS, held that key. No one else. Not the nobles, not the priests, not even Dahet, despite what later songs claimed. The key was more than symbolic. It was power distilled into one small piece of metal. And when the time came, he either kept it or gave it away, depending on who's telling the tale. You lean your forehead lightly against the gate. It vibrates beneath your skin, almost like a purr. The sound is faint, rhythmic, layered, like voices speaking behind glass. One voice stands out. A woman, calm, patient. He didn't trust her. A beat. And yet, he left her with the key. You lift your head slowly. The water around you is perfectly still now. The mist has drawn back, leaving only you, the gate, and a silence so thick it's almost physical. The voice continues, softer. He loved his daughter, but he loved the city more. Or maybe he just loved the idea of it. You try to picture it. A king standing where you stand now, his daughter beside him, the tide creeping in. What was he thinking? Did he believe the walls would hold forever? That his silence was protection? Or did he know, deep down, that secrets like this eventually break their locks? You reach again for the brass. This time, no hesitation. Your fingers brush the gate, and you feel it. A pulse. Weak, faint, but unmistakable. Like a heartbeat buried under metal and time. Thumps once, and the symbols shift again. Now they show a boat, small, fragile, fleeing through a city half-sunken. A cloaked figure rides atop it, and behind him, a woman stands on a crumbling tower. She is not waving. She is not begging. She is watching, and below her the gate opens. Just a crack. The sound is subtle, like the creak of an old hinge, but you hear it in your bones. You take a step back. The gate is moving, not fast, not aggressively, but with intent. A slow outward swell, like a mouth remembering how to yawn. Water begins to churn at your feet, not violently, but with purpose. It wants to come in, or maybe it wants you to come through. Your breath quickens. And in that moment, just for a heartbeat, you wonder, what happens if you step inside? What would you find on the other side of the gate? Not just more YS, not just more ruins. Something older, something untouched. But before you can move, the voice returns. You've touched it now, it says gently. You've started the rhythm. You turn, expecting to see her again, the figure in the shrine, the voice in the shadows. But there's no one, only your reflection, in the wet brass surface. Except it's not quite your reflection. It's you, yes, but older. Better. Eyes darker, hair stringier, like you've been underwater too long. Like the sea has claimed you already and is just letting your body catch up. You blink. It's gone. The gate stills. The water retreats a little, licking your ankles like an affectionate pet. The mist returns, curling around your feet, ready to lead you elsewhere. You step away from the gate, slowly, carefully, and the warmth fades from your hands. The city exhales again. Not relief, satisfaction. You didn't open the gate. Not this time, but it remembers you now, and so does she. You walk away from the gate, but it doesn't feel like you're leaving it behind. It feels like you've been absorbed, like part of you stayed pressed into that brass, like a handprint left in warm wax. You keep walking, following the mist again as it winds through the skeletal remains of YS. But something has changed. You can feel the city watching you now, and not with suspicion, with recognition. It knows what you've seen, what you've touched, and what you're starting to understand. The path curves, rising slightly out of the water, just enough to give your legs a break. Your boots squelch, your skin prickles, and the sky, still heavy with clouds, seems to press a little lower with each step. There's something up ahead, another square, smaller, more ornate, framed by arches and stone benches that have held centuries of barnacles and secrets. And at the center, pulpit, raised, round, with a series of stone steps leading up the side. A platform meant for speeches, sermons, declarations. It's cracked now but not broken, covered in green moss and purple algae. It rises like the spine of some ancient creature, still proud despite everything. You step closer. A carving lines the edge of the platform. A robed figure standing atop the sea, arms raised. Below, waves curl like flames, and people kneel, some with hands clasped in prayer, others shielding their eyes. But none are running. They trusted. Too much. You walk slowly around the base. More reliefs. More pride. Priests in elaborate robes laying hands on the sea, blessing it. Processions with incense, banners, bells. A child crowned in coral. A woman baptizing a fish. It should be absurd, but somehow it isn't, because you get the sense that this city believed, not just in gods, in itself, in its right to exist where it shouldn't. This wasn't a people who feared the sea. This was a people who thought the sea should kneel. You climb the steps to the pulpit and stand where ancient voices once echoed. From here, you can see more of the city. A curve of ruined rooftops, the ghostly outline of a colonnade, the distant glint of what might have once been a temple. And just beyond it, a long wall, barely visible beneath the water, but unmistakable. A seawall, the only thing that once stood between YS and the ocean, is huge, and now cracks straight through the center. Lightning flashes in the sky, not near, but not far either, and for a second, the entire horizon lights up in silver and shadow. You see it then, the arrogance. The whole city was built as if nothing could touch it. Not time, not tide, not even the gods, but especially not the sea. You remember what you saw back in the murals. The brass gate, the rituals, the key. Everything was built on the assumption that they could control the water. That if they prayed hard enough, sacrificed cleverly enough, engineered precisely enough, the sea would obey. You don't need a history book to know how that ended. But what's chilling is that the priests still believed, even as the sea rose. You step down from the pulpit and walk toward one of the arched benches, where a stone tablet leans drunkenly against the wall. You wipe it with your sleeve. The inscription is simple and yet astonishing. Faith is stronger than flood. We have proven it before. We will again. And beneath it, in smaller letters, the tide is late, not coming. It doesn't say, we are safe. It says, the tide is wrong, as if the ocean were misbehaving, as if water itself had a schedule and YS had written it. The overconfidence isn't subtle here. It's baked into every stone, every prayer, every policy. You close your eyes and try to imagine it. The final days before the fall. The dike straining. The brass gate groaning. The priests in their robes, standing before crowds, telling everyone to stay calm. This is just a high tide. The gods favor us. The water will recede. And the people, they probably believed it, because they had to. It's hard to flee a city that never prepared you to run. You open your eyes and take one last look at the pulpit. The platform is now slick with fresh moisture. Rain? No. You look up. The clouds haven't broken. The sea is breathing again. You hear it now, a low, pulsing hum beneath your feet, like the ground is remembering what it felt like to be an ocean floor. You step away, and something catches your eye. A doorway half collapsed, hidden behind vines of seaweed. You push through them and duck inside. It's a chamber, small, personal, lined with books, rotted scrolls, crumbling wax seals. The walls are covered in notes, scratched in ink and sometimes in blood. Diagrams, equations, tides, moon cycles, drawings of the gate, and at the center, a table with a crown, coral-tipped, gold-veined, heavy, not royal, ceremonial, the kind a high priest might wear when standing before a god who only listens to compliments. You reach for it, but stop, because next to the crown is a note, barely legible. If we bow lower, the sea will lift us. If we praise louder, it will wait. If we do nothing, it will open the gate itself. Asterisk. You shiver. They thought they could flatter the tide. You step away from the crown. The chamber feels tighter now, like the walls are contracting. The city has shown you its pride. And now it's ready to show you the price. The moment you step out of the chamber, the world around you begins to shift. Not crumble, not fall apart, just blur. The mist thickens again, but now it glows faintly, touched by unseen torches or lanterns long extinguished. You blink once and the city is ruins. You blink again and it's alive. No longer submerged, no longer silent. It's the last night of YS. Music spills from every direction. Harps, pipes, laughter, bells. Lights flicker in windows, and silk banners flutter in a wind that smells like lilac and sea salt. The streets are full of people, faces alight with joy or wine, moving with that specific kind of energy that only comes when everyone knows something important is happening but refuses to admit it. You're not watching a dream now. You're in it, and nobody sees you. A girl in a silver mask brushes past you, laughing as she's chased by a man with ink-stained fingers. A musician tunes a lute beside a fountain bubbling with rose-colored wine. Across the square, a pair of nobles perform a clumsy, barefoot waltz while tossing oysters at each other like children. There's celebration in the air, but it feels wrong. Too sharp, too bright, like a party thrown just to drown out the sound of approaching footsteps. Or waves. You step through the crowd unnoticed. Their joy doesn't touch you. You know what's coming. And maybe so do they. You reach a grand hall, arches tall enough to fit a cathedral, chandeliers of glowing sea glass, and a crowd thick with perfume, sweat, and defiant luxury. Every inch of this place screams we're fine. The food is rich. The wine overflows. No one is talking about the sea. And that, more than anything, tells you how scared they really are. At the center of the hall, Dahet, unmasked now, crownless, draped in crimson and black, like blood wrapped in shadow. Her eyes scan the crowd slowly, not smiling, not frowning, just watching. You expect to see arrogance or fear, but there's something far stranger on her face. Peace. She's not running, not warning, just waiting. You inch closer, weaving through dancers and wine-soaked philosophers. A man in priestly robes is shouting something about tides being a test of faith. A woman throws her shoes at him. No one listens. Near Dahet, a group of nobles discuss strategy in hushed voices, hands shaking over wine cups. The water can't rise that quickly. King Gradlin's engineers said, "We still have days, maybe." Their words crumble like old stone. Useless, already outdated. Then Dahet turns. And once again, she sees you. Your breath catches. She doesn't speak. but her eyes soften, not in welcome, not in recognition, in relief, as if your presence confirms something she hoped was true. You feel her voice before you hear it, like a ripple through the floor beneath your feet. "You came late," she says, "but not too late." You open your mouth, but the world shifts again. A tremor, small at first, barely enough to make the glasses tremble on their trays. But the music falters. The dancers pause. Someone laughs too loudly. Then a sound, dull, distant. Boom. The ground breathes once. The wine in the fountain sloshes over. A chandelier swings slightly. Dahet doesn't move. You look toward the far wall. And then, as if the dream needs you to witness it, it splits. A wall of water pours through the grand entrance. Not a wave, not a flood. A door that's been opened. The gate didn't break. It allowed the sea in. People scream. Dancers scatter. The orchestra drops their instruments. Some run. Some freeze. Some drop to their knees and begin to pray. The high priest tries to shout over it all, holding aloft the coral crown. Faith will hold the sea. The sea takes him first. In an instant, the hall is chaos. Tables overturned. Wine mixing with seawater. Silk dragging through salt. A woman screams, clutching her child. A noble shoves a servant into the wave as a shield. The chandeliers burst as their crystals shatter in pressure and panic. You can't move. You are part of it now. And then you see Dahet again, still standing, still calm. She turns toward the water and smiles, not with malice, with inevitability, like someone finishing a story they've known by heart since birth. She raises her hand, and the water parts just slightly before her. It doesn't touch her. It wraps around her, like a cloak, like a welcome. Then she steps forward into the flood and disappears. You're left standing in the ruins of a dream. The hall flickers. The lights vanish. The music dies. And the city collapses again. The vision dissolves. You are alone once more, knee-deep in black water, surrounded by silence. But now you remember, not just the fall, not just the flood, but the choice. They could have left, could have fled. But pride is a kind of gravity. And Dahet? She didn't open the gate. She was the invitation. The city has stopped showing you visions, but it hasn't stopped breathing. The water, which once lapped at your knees, now gently curls around your waist. Warm in places, bitterly cold in others. A strange rhythm pulses through it, not like waves, more like a heartbeat, slow, steady, ancient. And you realize something. You're not walking through ruins anymore. You're walking through a memory that never ended. Up ahead, the stones rise again, forming what was once a private causeway. Worn marble columns leaning against one another like drunk lovers, trailing vines of sea-laced ivy. You pass beneath them, and the mist closes behind you. And then you find it, a circle of stone, open to the sky, or what's left of the sky, black, still, not quite clouded, not quite starless. Like the city's ceiling has turned into an eye waiting to blink. In the center of this space lies a statue, not grand, not gilded, just simple. A woman, not robed, not crowned, barefoot, hair loose, carved in black stone. Her eyes are closed. Her expression is calm. The water laps at her ankles, but she does not bend. She looks not toward the heavens, nor toward the sea, but inward. This is Dahet, but not the Dahet of parties or prophecy, not the daughter of kings or scapegoat of storms. This is the after. And as you step into the circle, the air shifts, the mist stills, and she speaks, not aloud, not even in your ears. Her voice is inside you now, a current under your ribs, a whisper through your blood. They blame me because they must. A pause. What else do you call a woman who lets the world change? You don't respond. You wouldn't know what to say. But the voice continues, soft and steady. I didn't flood the city. I didn't tear down the walls. I didn't steal the key. I made a bargain. There it is. The rumor you've heard, buried in folktales and half-sung sailor songs. That Dahet didn't die. That she didn't drown. That she made a deal. You step closer to the statue, watching the way its eyes stay closed, as if remembering more than resting. They built a city where no city should stand, the voice says. They locked the sea behind a gate and called it power. But power is not about holding the tide. Power is knowing when to let go. The wind rises slightly, no sound, just motion. Your hair dances on your shoulders. The water feels thicker now, almost syrupy. The scent of salt and roses stings your nose. So I open myself, she says. Not the gate, me. And you see it now, not with your eyes, with understanding. Dahet didn't betray YS. YS betrayed itself, long before the first drop of water ever touched its streets. Arrogance, denial, worship of control. The sea wasn't the enemy. The sea was truth. And Dahet? She stopped pretending. She let it in. And in return, I was transformed. Your heart thuds in your chest. Because suddenly you know where this is going. The old legends said she became a mermaid, or a witch, or a storm goddess, or something unnamed, something wet and waiting, something that swims just beyond the edge of every sailor's courage. And here, in this circle of memory, the truth wraps around you like mist. You're not speaking to a ghost. You're speaking to her. Still here, still dreaming, still becoming. The statue exhales, not visibly, but deeply. The water hums again. You came looking for history, she murmurs. But history is a tide. It changes when you touch it. You kneel before the statue, not out of reverence, but because your legs give out. You carry the story now, Dahet says, and stories shape the shore. The statue's eyes open, only a sliver, but enough. They are dark, reflective, infinite, and you see yourself inside them, not as you are, as you could be, changed, claimed, carried forward by something older than kings, more patient than gods. Do you want to understand? She asks. The waves still. The mist holds its breath. The statue leans forward. Not much, just enough to offer a choice. You don't speak, but she hears the answer anyway. The statue closes her eyes again, not in dismissal, in trust. And the voice, the one that sounded like seawater and memory, slips away. Not gone, just quieter, like it's moved a little deeper beneath your skin, settling into a place where it can wait. You stand up, knees aching, and step back from the stone circle. The mist opens a narrow path, as if it knew you'd be ready. You follow it, still unsure whether your feet are touching ancient stone or simply a story. Because now the city begins to change again. Not physically, not visibly, but in meaning. You round a corner and the ruins reform. Not into their original shape, not into what was, into how they were remembered. A tower becomes taller. A bridge becomes straighter. The brass gate, still half drowned in the distance, now gleams like it's new. You realize you are walking through the legend now. And legends are different from memories. Memories are fragile, messy, unreliable. Legends are armor. And YS wore its story like a crown. You pass what remains of a tavern. Walls barely standing, seaweed curling through cracks. But as you blink, you see flashes of song and firelight. A bard strumming a harp carved from whale bone, singing of Dahet with a voice too beautiful to be trusted. She danced upon the waves, with fire in her hair. She cursed the king who jailed the tide, and vanished in sea air. You walk on. Another flash, this time a marketplace. Children running with ribbons, merchants selling bottles of captured moonlight, a woman in a cloak whispering a warning no one listens to. They say she grew scales, lives below, sings to sailors. Rubbish. She married a god. Has gills now, bless her. I heard she controls the storms, took her father's crown and tossed it into the deep. I heard she's the tide. You smile despite everything, because now you understand. The city didn't fall once. It fell 1,000 times in 1,000 different voices, each one changing Dahet. In one, she's the villain, a seductress who stole the key and opened the gate in a fit of vanity. In another, she's a victim, used by a coward king, discarded when the sea refused to be caged. Sometimes she's a goddess. Sometimes she's a fish. Sometimes she's a girl with wet hair and no crown, standing at the edge of everything, arms open. The truth? It drowned. And what rose in its place was better protected. It was repeated, whispered, embroidered onto sailcloth, painted on chapel ceilings, written in the margins of forbidden books. And you walk among those stories now. You pass a broken wall etched with dozens of names, scribbled, scratched, some written in ink, some in blood. They all end the same way. Dahet saw us, not judged, not saved, saw. And in this place, this half-real, half-folklore city, you finally understand the most dangerous thing about her wasn't her magic. It was her memory. She refused to vanish. You stop at the edge of a wide basin where a theater once stood. Stone benches rise like ribs from the water, and in the center, a flooded stage. You imagine the final performance, the last play before the tide came. A story of Dahet, no doubt, told by firelight, acted out by children in crowns made of driftwood and dreams. A voice echoes from the mist, raspy and amused. Which version do you believe? You don't answer, because belief isn't the point. Transmission is. It doesn't matter who Dahet was. What matters is that she was remembered. The tide took her body, but the people, the survivors, the sailors, the mothers who warned their daughters not to dance barefoot in the surf, the priests who renamed the sea the punishment of Dahet, just to hide their own fear. They made her eternal. And now, so have you. You sit on the stone bench, watch the stage, feel the pull of something older than narrative. And for a moment, the water around you clears, just enough to see what lies beneath. A girl, still, sleeping, hair drifting like kelp, eyes closed, and in her hand not a crown, not a key, but a mirror, not to look at herself, but to show you you. You leave the theater behind. The air feels thicker now, like you're walking through the breath between two verses of a long, sad song. The mist coils closer to your skin, not threatening, just familiar, like it knows what's coming next and wants to cushion the blow. Because now the story turns, not toward Dahet, but toward the king. You descend a series of stone steps, their edges eroded into soft curves by centuries of whispered blame. The water here is calmer, darker, but beneath its surface you begin to see images forming, reflections that don't match the sky. You see a horse, black as shipwreck wood, hooves splashing. A man riding it with eyes fixed forward, beard soaked, robes twisted by wind. Behind him, the sea explodes upward, swallowing towers whole. Fire and water, mingling in the mist, screams, and one other figure riding behind the king, his daughter, Dahet, but only for a moment, because then she's gone. The water shivers, You've heard the tale before, haven't you? King Gradlon, ruler of Ys, fleeing the flood as his great city sinks behind him, carried on the back of his enchanted horse, Morvarkach, born of storms, fast as lightning. The city collapses and he survives. That's the official version. A clean escape, a king spared by fate. But here, in the drowned bones of Ys, the story doesn't clean up so nicely. You reach the bottom of the steps and stand before a mural half sunken, almost faded, but not quite lost. It shows the king in flight, yes, but this time his face is twisted, not with sorrow, not even with horror, with indecision. Behind him, Dahat clings to his shoulders, and someone, a third figure, raises a hand from the sea. A priest? A soldier? A child? You don't know, but he didn't stop. The mural doesn't say whether Dahat fell or was pushed. Some versions say the king, desperate to save himself and cursed by his daughter's sins, flung her into the sea to lighten the horse's load. Others say she jumped, and yet others whisper that he never looked back, not even to see who followed him into the dark. You step away from the mural. A breeze catches your sleeve. The mist parts, revealing a small, broken statue in the grass. Gradlon, or what remains of him, not towering, not heroic, just a hunched figure on horseback, alone, eyes carved to look away, always away. His back is smooth from years of tidal wear, but his crown remains. Why? Because kings never forget to take their titles with them, even when they leave everything else behind. You sit beside the statue. Let your hand rest in the cold grass. It crunches like salt under your fingers. The ground here is quieter than the rest of the city. Not hollow, just still, as if no one really comes here anymore. No one sings songs about the king. No one builds temples in his name. No one wears a pendant shaped like his face. Because survival without honor is just absence. And that's what Gradlon became, a missing piece. The songs remember his horse, the flood, the gate, the guilt, but not him. You close your eyes and listen, and for the first time there's no voice, no vision, no memory whispering through your ribs, only silence. And that might be the worst fate of all. Not to be hated, not to be mourned, but to be erased. You look down at the statue's base. There's an inscription barely there, faint like it never wanted to be read. He left before the water touched his feet. You rise, because this isn't where the story ends. The king rode away, but the sea stayed, and so did everything it took with it. It begins as a vibration. You don't hear it, you feel it, like someone humming in the next room, like your bones are tuning to a note you didn't know existed. You stop walking, not because you're afraid, but because the city asks you to. The stones under your feet pulse softly, and then, like mist parting inside your skull, the voices begin, not loud, not mournful, not even entirely human, just harmony, not a choir of pain, a choir of memory. You stand still in the center of what was once a domed plaza, now half submerged and shrouded in silence. The architecture is almost gone, but the acoustics remain. And in the gentle echo that spirals through the air, the song builds itself from ruin. They're singing in Breton, or maybe in something older. It isn't language you hear, it's intention, love, regret, defiance, repetition. You move toward the sound, not because you're called, but because there's nowhere else to go now. The stones slope downward, forming a shallow basin that sinks into what used to be the heart of the city, a gathering place for festivals and sermons, or perhaps funerals. The water here is perfectly clear, not deep, but bottomless. You kneel beside it, look down, and see them, not bodies, not corpses, not even ghosts, just faces, Hundreds of them, thousands maybe, some blurred, some impossibly clear, some weeping, some laughing, all of them moving their mouths in unison, though no breath rises from their lips. This is the choir, and it has been singing for centuries. No conductor, no script, only memory. It's not a curse. This continuity. These are the ones who didn't make it out. Not just nobles and servants, not just dancers and drunkards. Children, fishermen, midwives, thieves, men who prayed too long, women who wouldn't leave their sisters, people who thought they had time. You lean closer, their mouths shape words, not all at once. One phrase here, one there. The tide does not forget. The gate listened. We stayed. We are still. And then a voice very near your ear says, "You're part of it now." You turn, but there's no one there. Only the faces below, their eyes bright and open. They don't accuse you. They include you. And suddenly your throat tightens, because you understand something that was never written in the stories. The city didn't just drown. It remembered how to live underwater. These people were not lost. They were rearranged, rewritten into sound. And that sound has continued ever since, folding in new verses, new listeners, new names. Yours maybe, not today, but eventually. You sit at the edge of the water, hands resting on your knees, eyes closed. The song flows around you. You start to hear individual voices, one that hums like your mother used to, another that laughs between notes, one that pauses mid-verse like they've forgotten the next line but still want to try. It's the most alive thing in the city, and the most impossible, because logic has no place here. This is where the sea collected what it took, and made it into something unlosable. You open your eyes, look down again. Now, one of the faces is looking straight at you. A boy, maybe 9, as too old. He mouths a sentence, and you understand it. "Don't forget to remember us." Then he fades, not vanished, just folded back into the harmony. You rise, your ears full and your chest strange, like grief wrapped in hope. The choir doesn't stop. It never will, because YS is not silent beneath the sea. It's singing, and now you know the tune. You leave the voices behind, though their melody clings to your ribs like fog on a lantern. It's quieter now, but only above the water. Beneath it, the choir still hums, soft, steady, persistent. You imagine it seeping into the hulls of passing ships, into the dreams of anyone foolish or lucky enough to drift above these ruins. And someone did. That's how the next tale begins. Not with royalty, not with temples, but with a man, a boat, and a night so still it made the stars look nervous. His name's long been lost, or overwritten by storytellers who couldn't decide if he was brave or just very tired. Some call him Jan, others call him Male, but always he's alone. A fisherman returning late, having caught nothing but cold. He's rowing hard through the waves just off the Breton coast, his lantern swinging like a pendulum of failure, when he hears something impossible, singing, not a gull, not the groan of wood, a woman's voice, clear, low, tuned to the bones of the sea. He stops rowing, leans over the edge, and there, gliding just below the surface, hair black as kelp, skin pale as moonlight, eyes open wide, is a figure, not quite swimming, not quite floating, just moving, effortless, intentional, and she sings. He drops the oar, because her voice doesn't pull him under. It invites. This is the first known tale of someone seeing Dahet after YS fell. He calls out, asks if she needs help. She doesn't answer. She just sings a different verse. One about loss, about gates, about fathers who look away. And in the song, he understands that she isn't trapped. She's not a ghost, not a mermaid, not a drowned queen. She's the remnant of a city that refused to vanish quietly. He rose home in silence, half in love, half in fear. The next day he tells the villagers. Some laugh, others grow pale. One old woman whispers that he's been marked now. And sure enough, from that day on, the sea never treats him the same. He can fish in fog. His nets fill even when no one else dares to sail. And sometimes, when he anchors at night, he hears humming from below his boat. Soft, familiar. One night, years later, he sails out and never returns. But on the rocks the next morning, someone finds his lantern. Inside it, a strand of wet black hair, too long to be his, too warm to be dead. And ever since then, whenever the tides turn sharp or the fog presses a little too thick, someone along the coast always claims to hear her. They never agree on the words, but they all remember the tune. It's passed from sailor to sailor, from net menders to lighthouse keepers. Sometimes hummed, sometimes whistled, sometimes chanted when a storm won't back down. And always with the same warning. If she sings to you, listen, but don't ever sing back. You walk now along a cracked pier, broken boards, rusted moorings, sea grass curling between stone slabs. The kind of place a fisherman might have returned to, the kind of place she might wait. You pause. The mist is still, the water is glass, and just under the surface, a flicker of movement, too fast to name, too slow to forget. And for the briefest moment, your lips part. You almost sing, but something in the pit of your stomach tightens, like memory pulling on a leash. So instead, you hum. Once, low, not for her, for yourself, because the line between witness and participant is thin here. And the tide? It always listens. You're walking beside the remnants of a seawall now, half buried in silt, coated in salt-thick moss, broken in long, deliberate lines, like the ocean didn't just destroy it, but edited it. The mist here glows faintly, not from sunlight, from memory, and something flickers at your feet. Not a fish, not a shell, a glint. You kneel, brush the sand away. There, caught in a tangle of sea thread and time, is something round. Gold, or what once was gold, dulled by the years but unmistakably shaped. A ring, not a simple one. This band is thick, etched with spiraling runes that writhe even when you don't move. In the center, a stone not cut, not polished. Just a perfect drop of green glass, humming faintly under your fingertips. You pick it up. You shouldn't pick it up, but you do. And the moment your fingers close around it, the city inhales, and you're elsewhere, not away, not in another place, in another layer. The world doesn't dissolve. It shifts sideways. Suddenly, the ruins around you are whole again, but not in celebration. They're watching you now. Windows stare. Arches listen. The ground beneath your feet pulses in rhythm with your heartbeat. And the ring tightens, not painfully, not threatening, just enough to remind you you're not the first, because this ring is hers. Not Dahet the girl, not Dahet the singer, Dahet the keeper, the one who remembered the names of those the sea forgot, the one who saw what her father chose not to. You lift your hand. The ring catches no light, gives it, and then visions, not dreams, warnings. A merchant's wife plunging into the surf to find her husband's name on the ocean floor. A child waking from sleep and drawing maps of a city they've never seen. A sailor holding this very ring just once, and refusing to speak again, only humming the same 5 notes until his death. And over all of it, Dahet's voice, not singing now, whispering. You looked too closely. You touched the question, and now you must carry the answer. This ring is not an artifact. It's an eye. You drop it, or think you do, but it's still on your finger. Cool, heavy, alive. You shake your hand. The ring stays. No pain, no magic flash, just presence. And now, every surface you pass reflects things that aren't there. A mirror shows your face older. Puddle shows your shadow weeping. A pane of broken glass shows Dahet behind you, never quite moving, never quite still. The ring doesn't let you see the future. It lets you see the layer beneath everything, where the city never left, where no one really dies. They just become part of the water. You take a breath, consider prying the ring off, but it's fused now, not to your skin, to your story, and maybe that's what it was made for, not as a relic, but as a relay, something passed from one person to the next, each of them a keeper of the truth, whether they wanted it or not. And now it's your turn. You step forward. The mist clears for a moment, and in the still water ahead, you see a reflection. Not yours, hers. She mouths something. You lean closer and read her lips. Don't drop it. You hear it before you see anything. A single chime, deep, round, not loud, just perfectly timed, like the pause between thunder and memory. It rolls through the mist like a ripple, bouncing gently between stones and tidipools, until it finds you standing frozen on the path. A bell, rung once, then again, but there are no churches here, no towers, no ropes to pull, no priests left to declare the hour, and yet the sound keeps coming, regular, measured, like a heartbeat trapped in bronze. You follow it, even though every part of you says not to, because there's something wrong about this bell. Not evil, not unnatural, just persistent. It's not calling for prayer, it's calling for witnesses. The ruins twist again, no longer streets or courts, but a slope, not steep, just enough to feel like descent. You pass cracked stairs, blackened tiles, shattered windows framed by salt-stained stone, and with every step, clang, the mist grows thinner, and you see it, the bell, suspended, not in a tower, not in wood or steel, but in nothing, floating above the base of a collapsed chapel, tethered to the air by forces that refuse explanation. It's enormous, easily the height of 3 people, crusted with salt, wound with barnacles, but somehow still gleaming like polished obsidian. And it rings. No movement, no wind, no clapper, just sound. You draw closer. The air here is different, heavy, like it's been holding its breath for centuries and just now decided to exhale. Etched along the rim of the bell, worn but legible, is a phrase in Breton. Na ket achu sihos. You don't speak the language fluently, but somehow, through the ring on your hand or the pulse in your ribs, you know exactly what it says. It isn't over yet. You kneel beside the rubble and feel it, not just the sound, the pull, like the bell is resonating not just through the air, but through time. Because this is the gate, not a door, not a keyhole, not a wall. The gate was never stone. The gate is sound. And as long as the bell rings, the city's fall is still happening. Not as an event, as a condition. Somewhere, above the waves, someone's watching the moon rise. They don't know what they're hearing. Maybe they think it's the creak of their ship. Maybe they think it's a dream. But you know the truth. On every full moon, the bell rings. Not to warn, to remind that the gate was open once, and it never quite closed. You stare at the bell, and for a moment, just a flicker, your reflection warps in its surface. Not yourself, a version of you, standing waist-deep in water, eyes glowing faintly, wearing the ring like a crown. Your mouth moves, but the sound is the bell. Clang. You blink. It's gone. But the impression remains. The future might already be ringing through you. You step back, The bell rings one last time, and then the mist folds in again like curtains after a performance. Silence returns, but not emptiness, because now you know something no map or myth ever told you. YS didn't vanish. It just learned to echo. The silence doesn't last, because silence here is a costume the city wears, never quite real, never quite honest. And now it sheds that illusion. You walk again, not far, just a few steps forward. But the air shifts, the ground becomes slick, and the walls begin to weep. Not metaphorically, literally. Droplets slide down every surface. Beads of salt water collecting in the crevices of carved stone, seeping from the pores of statues, dripping from archways that haven't held a roof in centuries. You reach out, touch one of the stones. It's wet, but not with fresh water. It's tears. You pull your hand back instinctively, but something clings to your fingertips. A grain of salt, pale and pink, like it's been steeped in blood and memory. And as you stare at it, a vision slips through. A flicker, not full, not loud, just there. A mother, clutching her infant in the highest room of a tower, whispering lullabies over the roar of approaching waves. A baker, soaked to the waist, throwing his last bag of flour into the fire as if heat could stop the flood. A priest who doesn't pray, just curses, quietly, staring at the sea with his collar undone and his hands shaking. Then it's gone, but the stone still weeps. You realize now the walls remember, not just moments, people. Each droplet is a story, and there are thousands, millions maybe, because YS didn't fall all at once. It fell room by room, person by person. Each wall absorbed a scream, a laugh, a secret confession. Each tile beneath your feet soaked up a farewell. And now, the city is leaking, not from damage, from pressure. Too many memories, too much unsaid. Can't hold it anymore, so it oozes the past. You pass a crumbling column. The water there is thicker, almost sticky. A dark trail runs down its length, leaving streaks of salt that crystallize into shapes. A ring, a crown, a horse, a wave, and then a hand, reaching up, always up. You look away, only to find another wall, this one whispering. The droplets tap as they fall, rhythmically, unnaturally, like Morse code from the dead. You try not to listen, but the ring on your hand pulses once, and suddenly, you can understand it. Tell them we didn't sleep through it. Tell them we saw it coming and sang anyway. Tell them salt was not our weakness. It was our voice. You step back, look up, realize that every surface around you is crying. Some softly, some like thunder, and not one of them is dry. The very bones of the city are leaking stories, not as warnings, not as revenge, but as legacy. Because if no one remembers your voice, your walls will speak for you. Even now, even ruined, YS is still telling its tale. And now that you've heard it, you can't unhear. You walk faster. The sound follows. Drip, drip, drip. Not random, not chaotic. It has rhythm now. It's forming another song. This one is quieter, but it's about you. You glance at your palm. Another grain of salt rests there. It melts without heat, just knowing. And you understand, in that heavy, eerie way that dreams become rules, you've become one of the walls. Not stone, but story. And story doesn't forget. The weeping walls eventually grow quiet. Not dry, just still. You've walked far enough for the salt to crust behind you in footprints. The mist remains loyal, hugging your shoulders, carrying the ghost of dripping water in its breath. But the city's voice has changed again. Less urgent, more sacred. You're approaching a place that even the ruins seem to respect. The ground levels out into a courtyard or the bones of one. You can just make out the shape of cloisters, once graceful, now sagging inward. The columns lean together like sisters whispering a secret. And in the center, a shallow pool. Still, unmoving, surrounded by 7 broken pillars. Each bears a carving of a woman. Each different, each familiar. You don't recognize their faces, but your body does. You feel it in your spine, the way one feels a scent that comes before a storm. Their eyes are closed, their hands outstretched, not in supplication, not in worship, in invitation. They are the sisters of the deep. You've heard rumors, buried in folktales, cloaked in metaphor, denied by every churchman who's ever held a quill, that a group of women survived the drowning of YS not by running, not by praying, but by surrendering. Fully, completely. They didn't flee the water. They joined it, and they were changed. Not drowned, not damned, transfigured. You step into the courtyard, careful not to disturb the stillness. The ring on your finger tightens just slightly, as if acknowledging that this place knows what you carry. Then movement, subtle, a ripple in the pool, and then a voice, female, many voices, layered, harmonizing in a single thread of sound. She didn't fall alone. The words don't echo, they settle into the stones, into your bones. You kneel beside the pool, not out of reverence, just because your legs forget how to stand, and you see them, just below the surface, 7 figures, drifting, not statues, not visions, them, still alive, or something very close to it, hair flowing like ink in water, eyes closed, hands clasped as if in shared ritual. One opens her eyes, and she sees you. You expect fear, or judgment. What you get is something worse, recognition. She mouths something, not loud enough to hear, so you lean closer, and she says, "Do you remember your part?" You jerk back, because you don't. Do you? The water ripples again. One of the sisters lifts her hand slowly, and on her palm, a matching ring, gold, green stone, just like yours. She presses her hand to the underside of the water's surface, and instinctively you mirror her. Your ring touches the pool. Flash, you're somewhere else. Not physically, just momentarily not here. A stone chamber, candles flickering, 7 women in a circle, and one more you, not exactly as you are. Older, younger, drenched in robes of sea thread and kelp, face painted in salt ash, chanting something, not words, a melody you've heard before, in the bell, in the salt, in the dripping walls. Then back, you're on your knees, shaking. The sister beneath the water lowers her hand, closes her eyes again. The voices return. We remember the right. We hold the line. You walked the gate. You wore the ring. You are the echo of the vow. You don't understand. Not fully, but the feeling is deep, permanent. You are not a visitor here. You are a participant, not by choice, by continuity. You were always going to come. You were always going to find the ring. You were always going to hear the song. Because the sisters, they didn't survive for survival's sake. They remained because someone had to keep the tide shaped. And now, they are passing it to you. The pool stills again. The cloisters remain silent. And in your palm, the ring burns, not with heat, but with meaning. You don't speak, because there's nothing left to ask. The answer has always been, you already know. You leave the cloister slowly. You don't want to. There's a pull like gravity, like memory, that tries to keep you there. But the path ahead unspools anyway, and the mist shifts with that same ancient patience, revealing the next chapter, whether you're ready or not. You're walking toward the gate, Not a metaphor this time, the actual place, or what's left of it. Stone arches half buried in salt. Metal supports rusted into bone-colored curves. An ancient hinge shaped like a serpent devouring its own tail. The gate is shattered but not scattered. It didn't explode. It was opened. And that's where the argument begins. Historians say Dahet stole the key from her father's robes, unlocked the sea gate in a fit of arrogance, and doomed the city. Others say she was tricked by a lover, by a demon, by a priest in disguise, depending on which tavern you're drinking in. But some, just a few, the ones who whisper in corners and write their theories in invisible ink, suggest something far stranger. The gate was never locked. You step forward and feel it in your bones. The grooves in the ground, the shape of the hinges, the way the water lines curve gently toward this place. It doesn't suggest forced entry. It suggests invitation. You kneel by the base of the gate. There's no keyhole, just a smooth indentation, like something meant to fit a hand. You press yours against it, not out of curiosity, out of instinct. The stone responds, not with sound, not with movement, but with memory. A voice floods your thoughts, not Dahet's, not the sisters, but older, dry, measured, male. Locks are for those who expect to be disobeyed. But when you command the tide, you don't lock the door. You leave it open and trust that fear will keep it shut. You pull your hand back. The indentation stays warm. You stand, look around, and realize that the gate was never meant to be a barrier. It was meant to be a suggestion, a threshold that only opens if you believe it should. And that might have been the problem, because belief is slippery, especially in a city full of dancers, poets, engineers, mystics, lovers, drunks, and daughters with storm-colored eyes. Someone always believes too hard. Someone always forgets to fear. Maybe Dahet didn't unlock anything. Maybe she just stepped forward, with no one there to stop her. And the tide, obedient, ancient, always listening, answered. Because the sea doesn't need permission. It just needs an invitation. And YS gave it one. You walk beneath the arch now. It's huge, cracked, beautiful, and quiet, but only for a moment, because as you pass beneath it, you feel a shift, like pressure, like something notices, and far off, from somewhere in the deep, you hear a voice not shaped by lungs or lips, a voice made of volume, of depth, of weight. It says only this: open was enough. You stand still. Let the wind pass through your coat. Let the ring pulse once, twice, then settle. And now you understand what no scholar could prove. The gate was never a mistake. It was a mirror. And YS didn't fall because it opened. YS fell because everyone thought it wouldn't. You've walked too far for time to make sense anymore. Day and night don't apply here. Not under the mist, not among these ruins. But your body knows it's later. Your legs ache differently. Your thoughts stretch thinner. And somewhere inside you, the feeling is growing stronger. You're not the only one who's been here. The path shifts. Stones become smoother, more recent. There's a scaffolding now. Collapsed, metal twisted by salt air. Ropes frayed and fallen into a tangled grave. You see scraps of modern gear. A cracked oxygen tank, a shattered diving mask, a coil of cable chewed through by rust and rot, and just ahead a bench, not ancient, stainless steel, bolted to a slab of stone. It's been here maybe a decade, and carved into the bench in careful block letters. I saw her. You sit, not because you're tired, because you're supposed to. This is where the story of Adrian Maurec begins. A French diver, commercial grade, hired for wreck recovery, pipeline surveys, underwater maintenance. Practical, disciplined, not the sort to chase legends. But he did. Because he'd heard the rumors, the coordinates that only showed up once, the sonar image that looked too symmetrical. The whisper passed in a bar in Brest by a man with cracked lips and salt-burned eyes. He dove in 2013, alone, was only supposed to be down for 20 minutes. He stayed 37. They brought him up half-conscious, his suit intact, his eyes wide open, and unseeing, not injured, gone, the pupils fully dilated, irresponsive. He never spoke again, except once. 2 weeks after the dive, in a hospital in Quimper, he sat up in the middle of the night and said clearly, "She's still singing." Then he vomited seawater. Doctors said it was hallucination, trauma, pressure sickness. But they never explained how he got barnacles growing on the outside of his lungs. You stare ahead, and the mist begins to move again. To the right, a narrow platform descends into the surf, clearly added by a modern expedition team. There's a plaque half-submerged. You wipe it clean. It reads, Adrian's Dive Site, August 19, 2013. No further expeditions authorized. You step closer. The water is calm, deceptively, but you feel the pressure even before you kneel. Something waits below. Adrian said she was there, not in words, in what he scrawled on the walls of his hospital room in the last few months of his life. Over and over, same phrase, same slant, even when sedated. Her eyes were open, and under it every time, I couldn't close mine again. You kneel, touch the water, and you hear it, just for a moment. A voice, not in your ear, but in your bloodstream. Not singing this time, humming, soft, predictable, a lullaby you somehow know. The water doesn't pull you in. It doesn't have to, because now you understand what Adrian saw. He dove to find a ruin. He found a listener. She didn't attack him. She didn't curse him. She just looked at him, and her gaze was so vast, so ancient, so deep, that his own eyes refused to compete. You stand, step back. The water ripples once, as if someone just turned away. Behind you, on the bench, the metal begins to frost with salt crystals. They form slowly, carefully, and spell 2 words. You next. You don't answer, because the city's not asking you to dive. It's asking if you'll see. And once you say yes, the rest follows. You leave the bench behind, but it doesn't leave you. You still feel the imprint of the question carved into metal, not just in your mind, but under your skin, like it's waiting for an answer, like you've already given one without realizing. The wind shifts, and with it, something new. Scattered across the stones, just ahead of you are objects. Dozens, maybe hundreds, none of them ancient. No moss, no barnacles, no rust, just out of place. A wooden toy horse, bright red paint still fresh. A sealed bottle of perfume labeled in French. The label says it expired in 1998. A pair of rubber diving fins, child-sized. A cracked Polaroid of 2 people laughing under a Ferris wheel. A Walkman, still faintly humming static through ancient foam headphones. And resting on a salt-washed stone slab, a letter, enclosed in a modern envelope. You pick it up, despite every inch of you screaming not to. The paper inside is dry, crisp, typed, but the ink shivers slightly as you read. It says, "To whomever finds this, I didn't think anyone else would get this far. If you're reading this, you've already heard it. Or worse, you've answered. That means you know it's not a legend. YS isn't sleeping. It's remembering. And memory always reaches shore. Don't take anything with you. Don't stay too long. And if she offers you a name, don't say it back. Elle." You fold the letter slowly, look around, and realize this isn't random flotsam. These are returns. Things that were lost. To the sea, to time, to YS. And now, for reasons no scholar or diver or mystic can explain, the city sends them back. Every year around the same date, August 19th. The date Adrian Dove. The date some claim the gate first opened. Along the Breton coast, from Douarnenez to Plogoff, beachcombers whisper about strange tides. Not higher or stronger, but full of messages. An unopened diary, perfectly preserved. A cassette tape labeled, "Do not rewind." A ring, not like yours, but similar enough to give you chills. And always, a name you recognize but can't place. Locals burn what washes up. Others bury it. A few keep things. They never end well. One man found a silver fork etched with the Dahet crest. Displayed it proudly in his shop window. 2 days later, the shop burned down. No cause found. No injuries. But his wife swears he stood in the fire, smiling, humming a song no one else could hear. You kneel by the slab and set the letter back down. The sea stirs, not violently, just a gentle push, like an old friend trying to tap your shoulder. A reminder that nothing is lost in YS. It just waits for the right tide. And now the tide is moving again. Behind you, a sound like dragging footsteps in wet sand. You turn. Nothing. But the objects. They're different now. Rearranged. The red toy horse now faces you. The Polaroid is missing. The letter is gone. And something new sits in its place. Your name, written in salt. You blink. It's gone. But the message remains. What the tide takes, it remembers. What it remembers, it returns. What it returns will never be the same. You descend now, carefully, step by salt-crusted step, toward a ledge where the mist thins and the air grows colder. Not with breeze, but with depth. The stones beneath your feet sweat damp warnings, and the ringing in your ears that started hours ago sharpens to a hum, like a choir rehearsing without words. And then you see it, half submerged, framed in a pocket of still water where no waves dare disturb the surface. The drowned chapel, not a ruin, not a memory, whole. Its pointed steeple leans slightly, but it holds. The stone is dark but smooth, untouched by the decay that blackens the rest of YS. Thick stained glass windows shimmer beneath the waterline, like eyes that refuse to blink. Its wooden doors remain closed, yet every inch of this place hums with the impossible suggestion. Someone is still inside, and more than that, someone is home. You kneel beside the water's edge, and at first you think you're imagining it. But no, there it is, light, faint, warm, golden, pouring out from behind the chapel's windows, not flickering, not erratic, steady, as if from candles kept perfectly lit by invisible hands. You stare, and the light pulses once, like it sees you and recognizes you. You should run. You don't. Instead, you lean closer, and in the chapel's glassy reflection, you see something strange. The moon, full, not above you, beneath, a silver orb suspended under the surface, mirroring the real sky, or maybe replacing it. And in its glow, the chapel shifts, like it's not resting on the seabed at all, but floating between worlds. And then you hear it. Not music, not chanting, but bells. Tiny, soft, like altar chimes rung during a ceremony too sacred to name. You look down. The chapel doors are now open in the reflection. Not in the water, not in the world, just in the echo. You lean in further, squinting to see inside, and the ring on your finger burns cold. The warning is clear. You are not a guest here. You are a memory, and the chapel keeps memories alive. You pull back, and that's when you notice the names, carved into the steps descending toward the chapel, worn by time, impossible to see until this moment. Hundreds, maybe thousands, some in Latin, others in Breton, a few in languages no scholar could identify. But one name stands out. Yours, written in soft, curling script. Only it's not carved. It's growing, out of the stone, forming itself like frost on glass, letter by letter, as if this place has just now decided that you belong to it. You stand quickly. The water ripples once. The chapel fades slightly, still visible, but less crisp, like a dream sliding toward morning. And then, from deep inside, a voice. Not Dahet, not the sisters, priest, not living, not kind, just present. No one is buried here. They still listen, and they remember the oath. You step back, trip slightly over a broken statue's hand reaching up from the mud. Catch yourself. The ring on your finger pulses once, then stills. You look back at the water. The chapel is gone. No ripples, no splash, just air, stone, and the unbroken silence of something that refused to drown. You turn to leave, but for the first time your footsteps make no sound, because you've been heard, and YS never lets go of what it hears. You descend now, carefully, step by salt-crusted step, toward a ledge where the mist thins and the air grows colder. Not with breeze, but with depth. The stones beneath your feet sweat damp warnings, and the ringing in your ears that started hours ago sharpens to a hum, like a choir rehearsing without words. And then you see it, half submerged, framed in a pocket of still water where no waves dare disturb the surface. The drowned chapel, not a ruin, not a memory, whole. Its pointed steeple leans slightly, but it holds. The stone is dark but smooth, untouched by the decay that blackens the rest of YS. Thick stained glass windows shimmer beneath the waterline, like eyes that refuse to blink. Its wooden doors remain closed, yet every inch of this place hums with the impossible suggestion. Someone is still inside, and more than that, someone is home. You kneel beside the water's edge, and at first you think you're imagining it. But no, there it is. Light, faint, warm, golden, pouring out from behind the chapel's windows, not flickering, not erratic, steady, as if from candles kept perfectly lit by invisible hands. You stare, and the light pulses once, like it sees you and recognizes you. You should run. You don't. Instead, you lean closer, and in the chapel's glassy reflection, you see something strange. The moon, full, not above you, beneath, a silver orb suspended under the surface, mirroring the real sky, or maybe replacing it. And in its glow, the chapel shifts, like it's not resting on the seabed at all, but floating between worlds. And then you hear it, not music, not chanting, but bells, tiny, soft, like altar chimes rung during a ceremony too sacred to name. You look down. The chapel doors are now open in the reflection. Not in the water, not in the world, just in the echo. You lean in further, squinting to see inside, and the ring on your finger burns cold. The warning is clear. You are not a guest here. You are a memory, and the chapel keeps memories alive. You pull back, and that's when you notice the names, carved into the steps descending toward the chapel, worn by time, impossible to see until this moment. Hundreds, maybe thousands, some in Latin, others in Breton, a few in languages no scholar could identify. But one name stands out. Yours, written in soft, curling script. Only it's not carved. It's growing, out of the stone, forming itself like frost on glass, letter by letter, as if this place has just now decided that you belong to it. You stand quickly. The water ripples once. The chapel fades slightly, still visible, but less crisp, like a dream sliding toward morning. And then, from deep inside, a voice. Not Dahet, not the sisters, priest, not living, not kind, just present. No one is buried here. They still listen, and they remember the oath. You step back, trip slightly over a broken statue's hand reaching up from the mud. Catch yourself. The ring on your finger pulses once, then stills. You look back at the water. The chapel is gone. No ripples, no splash, just air, stone, and the unbroken silence of something that refused to drown. You turn to leave, but for the first time your footsteps make no sound, because you've been heard, and YS never lets go of what it hears. You're walking again, but now you start to wonder, where exactly are you? Because the stones beneath your feet don't match any pattern you saw before. They're older, sharper, set at impossible angles, like they weren't laid by masons but grown, or folded into place by a hand that didn't understand flat ground. And that's the thing. You check the sky, still choked in mist. You check the air, still thick with brine. But everything around you feels moved, shifted, rearranged. And that brings you to the old maps. You remember them now, don't you? The ones tucked in leather-bound atlases with pages that smelled of mildew and forgotten ink. Some showed YS off the coast of Douarnenez, nestled just below the tide line. Others pushed it further, out toward the Atlantic Trench, or north into colder waters where no human had business drifting. You laughed at them once. All the contradictions, all the red excess in different spots. But maybe they weren't wrong. Maybe they were all right, just at different times. Because now, looking around at stone paths that shouldn't intersect, courtyards that feel slightly misaligned with memory, and statues turned just a few degrees too far, you realize the city moves. Not like a ship, not like a ghost, like a thought in someone else's mind. Flickering, forming, then slipping away. You pass a crumbling milestone, once marked in Roman numerals. But the numerals have eroded away, and in their place is a newer scratch, crudely gouged. -18-degree drift confirmed. Not a date, not a direction, a rotation. You pause, try to make sense of the geometry, but it doesn't work here, because YS is not on the map. YS is the map, and it changes depending on who's looking. That explains the sailors who swore they found a city under calm seas, only to lose it again the next morning. That explains the aircraft radar blips that showed medieval layouts where no land existed. That explains the divers who swear they saw a gate and came back with barnacles behind their eyes. You find a slab, half sunken in a bed of broken coral. Carved into it are 3 overlapping outlines of YS, same towers, same gate, but in slightly different configurations. One rotated, one inverted, one upside down. Below them, a single phrase etched in choppy Latin. She turns when watched. You run your fingers over the stone. It's warm. You step back and close your eyes. Take a breath, then open them again. And everything is slightly different. A doorway is where a column was. A bridge has shortened by half. A bell tower is now leaning the other way. You didn't move, but she did. The city isn't static. It isn't even fluid. It's reflexive. A labyrinth of identity that answers to attention. And suddenly, your footsteps matter more than they should. Because what you observe, you shape. And what you shape remembers you. You find another map, this one newer, laminated, touristic. It shows the Breton coast in clean lines, with red dots for attractions. Someone circled a spot just off the bay, then scratched it out, then circled another, then another, all in a spiral pattern. The last circle is where you're standing, and beneath it someone wrote, "It moved again last year." You feel the ring on your hand tighten, not out of fear, out of alignment. You've stepped not into ruins, but into a living coordinate, and it has begun to center itself around you. The path narrows, not from design but from the city closing in. Stones lean closer. Archways once wide now brush your shoulders. Statues turn slightly inward, like they're watching, not in judgment, not in warning, in anticipation, because they know where you're headed. They know who waits. You pass a wall carved in spirals, the grooves filled with dark algae, almost black. In the center, faint but unmistakable, a shape has been etched and re-etched until the stone bows inward. A woman's face, crowned, not with gold or iron, but with waves. Her hair flows backward like surf frozen mid-collapse. Her eyes are wide, unblinking. You reach out almost without thinking, and the wall speaks, not with words but with a name, one you know before it's said. Dahet. Her name moves like a current. Every stone around you knows it. Every gust of wind repeats it, not in celebration, not in condemnation, in reverence. Because here's the thing, they say she drowned, that her father, King Gradlon, cast her into the sea to save himself and the city, that she sank beneath the waves, cursed and wild, swallowed by the very waters she dared to command. But that's not what the city says. That's not what YS remembers. Because as you pass deeper, the mist lifts for just a moment, and you see it, the statue, twice your height, carved from black saltstone, smooth as glass. It's her, Dahet. But she isn't drowning. She's rising from the water, arms outstretched, eyes open, mouth singing, not a lament, not a warning, a welcome. You step closer. The ring on your finger throbs once, then twice, a heartbeat, and then the truth folds around you, slow and suffocating. She didn't die. She adapted. Because when the gate opened, when the sea poured in and the sky cracked open and the screams of the city rose like steam, Dahet didn't sink like a sinner. She changed. The tide didn't take her, crowned her. And now, she is the city, not in spirit, not in myth, in structure, in breath. You lean close to the statue and realize you can hear her voice. It's been threaded through every bell ring, every drop of salt, every name whispered on the walls. She's always been here, underfoot, overhead, inside the architecture of the ruin. The city is her body. The mist is her veil. And the ring? It was hers first. You look at your hand. The gem is no longer green. It's deep blue now, like a drowned sapphire. You back away. But the statue moves. Only slightly. Just the fingers. Just enough to curl, like it's about to reach. And behind you, the stones begin to sing. High, soft, long vowels and open chords, rising like breath held too long. The city is waking, because her name has been said. And you said it, not out loud, but with your feet, with your thoughts, with your ring. You answered her call. And Dahet? She's listening. You run now, not out of panic, out of instinct, the kind that lives in the back of your ribs, that taught your ancestors when to leave the fire and when to drop the spear. Because the city has changed again. And this time, it's breathing. You feel it in the stones beneath your feet, the way they rise, slow, deliberate, then settle, then rise again. You pause, crouch, press your hand to the flagstone, and feel it, a slow inhale, a long exhale, rhythmic, measured, like something vast sleeping just below the surface. You close your eyes, and the sound becomes clearer. Not wind, not waves, not water, lungs. Deep beneath the streets, the entire ground is pulsing, not violently, but with the patience of something ancient and enormous, as if the city itself is taking breath. You back away slowly, but the breath follows. Everywhere you go, Stairs, bridges, crumbled courtyards, you feel the same soft, impossible motion, like the city is expanding and collapsing in quiet, tidal waves, like it was never made of stone at all, just flesh masquerading as ruin. A man once wrote of this place, a scholar, forgotten now. He said the paving stones near the sea would rise and fall with ghost tide, and joked that YS was built on the back of a leviathan. But now you wonder, was it a joke or a warning? Because as you pass into another alley, narrow and dark, the mist parts to reveal a single pool of still water. Moonlight or something like it shines into its depths, and there, beneath the surface, a ribcage, not human, not even close, massive, curved. The bones stretch from wall to wall, ivory coated in kelp and moss. You stare, and the water ripples, not from above, from beneath. Something inside the ribcage shifts, rolls, resettles, and you realize this is no metaphor. The city is alive, not just haunted, not just remembered, alive in the most unnerving way, not with a beating heart, but with something older, slower, a metabolism of myth and grief and time. You back away. Too late. The ground swells slightly beneath your feet, not enough to knock you over, just enough to acknowledge you. A puff of air, cold and wet, rises from a nearby crack, and for a heartbeat you hear the breath, not just the sound, the content. Still here, still remembering, still hungry. You freeze, because the voice isn't separate from the city. The voice is the city, every brick, every arch, every twist of broken iron. Her breath lives in them, and you're no longer walking on YS. You're inside it, like swallowed prey still alive inside the throat. But here's the most disturbing part. You're starting to feel calm, because the rhythm is so steady, so slow, so much older than your fear. You begin to match it, your breath now in sync. Inhale as the city swells, exhale as the mist sinks. You close your eyes again, just for a second, and your pulse disappears. Not in fear, in harmony. You open your eyes and realize you've stopped moving. Somewhere between one step and the next, the city convinced your body to pause. Not trapped, just willing. A stone shifts underfoot. You look down. There's a crack. Thin, breathing mist. You kneel beside it, and from deep, deep below something sighs. We remember the shape of your soul. You don't run. You don't scream, because the city's breath has become your own. And the only sound now is quiet, like lungs preparing. You emerge into a wide, open plaza. Not ruined, just sunken. The stones are darker here, polished by centuries of tide and silence. Pillars lean like they're tired of standing. Ivy moves in slow motion through the mist, like it grows not from the earth, but from memory. You're deeper now, not in distance, in commitment. You've crossed some invisible line, and the city knows. It no longer hides its voice. And here, in the center of the plaza, they wait. The ones who stayed. You first sense them before you see them, not with eyes or ears, with weight. There's a pressure in the air, a stillness that pushes into your chest, like you've walked into a room where everyone's already looking at you. Then they step forward. Not ghosts, not skeletons, not drowned. People, but not quite. Their skin is pale, not corpse-like, just unlit. Their hair floats slightly, even in air, as if the water never left them. Their eyes are reflective, like salt flat mirrors, shimmering slightly with movement that isn't yours. They are the remainers, the last citizens of YS, and they are awake. You count 7 at first, then 11, then more. They form a circle around the plaza, keeping a careful distance. Not threatening, not curious, just watching. Each one wears something strange: a ceremonial sash made of eelskin, a cloak embroidered with tidal maps, a crown that looks suspiciously like a barnacle reef. You take a step forward, and none of them move, but one speaks. A woman. Her voice sounds like tidewater through reeds. You've come far for someone who doesn't know their name. You almost respond, but she holds up a hand, not to silence you, to offer something. A mirror, small, polished silver. But when you look into it, you don't see your face. You see your place. A figure standing at the gate, hands on the threshold, ring glowing. Behind you, the city stirs like a sleeping beast. Before you, the ocean waits like an altar. You were one of us, the woman says. You chose the surface once, but that was before the turning. You try to speak. Ask what turning means. She smiles gently. It is not reassuring. We turn, the city turns. It is the rhythm. Those who forget are called back. You remembered. You shake your head. You didn't remember anything. You just followed the ring. She steps closer. You see now that her eyes are not eyes at all. They are tiny whirlpools, spinning slowly inward. You walked the deep line. You passed the chapel. You heard her breathing. You spoke the name. So now you must choose. The circle of remainers tightens, not threatening, inviting. One of them holds out a cloak made of sea silk. Another offers a goblet carved from mother of pearl. A third opens their hand, and inside is a second ring, identical to yours, only cracked. Stay, the woman says. Take your place. We remember. You belong. You step back, not in fear, in clarity, because you realize now they didn't survive YS. They became it. These aren't just survivors. They are extensions of the city. Its breath, its fingers, its memory given form. And every year, every century, YS offers the same bargain. Stay. Forget the surface. Become the mist that sings, the tide that shifts, the walls that watch. Some accept, some are chosen, but very few are allowed to leave. You close your eyes, feel the ring burn cold, and hear a whisper, not from them, but from deep within yourself. You already chose once, but you were not ready. Now you are. The woman lowers the mirror. You see your reflection now, eyes tired, face pale, but in your gaze something new, a knowing. They step back, make space. You may leave, for now, but the tide will call again. And next time, it will not be a question. You turn and walk away. No one follows, but every footstep echoes differently, as if the city is no longer beneath you, but within you. You don't look back, because you know you're already part of it. And so you climb, not up a tower or a mountain or even a path, but back through memory, back through mist. The stones behind you begin to vanish, not crumble, not break, just fade like chalk and fog. You don't hurry. There's no need. The city no longer presses. It only waits. The ring on your hand pulses one final time, soft now, like a heartbeat drifting off in sleep. Its light dims to gray, then clear, then nothing. Above you, the sky is shifting. Still no stars, but the mist grows thinner, the air drier. You breathe deeper, not because the pressure lifts, because you're adjusting. The strange thing is you feel peace, not joy, not relief, but a slow, anchored calm, as if some part of you has been returned to where it always belonged, even if only briefly. The path winds upward, lined now with shapes that used to be statues. But now they're just outlines, memories, like the chapel, like the bench, like Adrian's final words echoing in the surf. You pass a familiar arch. It doesn't look at you this time. It doesn't need to. because it already knows your name, and it will remember it long after you forget. You reach the final step, the edge of YS. A soft breeze touches your cheek. It smells like wet slate and lavender. Something old, something waiting, and the city, somewhere behind you, takes one last long breath, then stills. You close your eyes, listen, to nothing. No bells, no footsteps, no whispers, just that silence, the kind that wraps around you like a blanket pulled to your chin. The kind that says, you made it back, but you didn't leave everything behind. You never could. So now rest. No more walking. No more searching. Let the sea hold its stories. Let the city sleep again. And let the mist fold gently around all that you've seen and all that you won't remember when the morning comes. Because that's how YS stays hidden. Not beneath the waves, but beneath your dreams. Now dim the lights. Let your breath slow. Let your hands grow still. And drift, drift, drift